Hello there and welcome to today's webcast, Funding GovTech, Navigating Technical Debt. This is the second installment in our series we're exploring on funding GovTech. My name is Phil Bertolini and I'm excited to serve as your host today. I am the Vice President of the Center for Digital Government. So thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. We're going to have a great session over the next 30 minutes. I do have some housekeeping items for you on the screen. Also, during today's webcast, you'll be able to connect with your peers via LinkedIn and Twitter. For those of you on Twitter, please use hashtag govtechlive to share key takeaways, quotes, and learnings from today's webcast. At the close of the webinar, we encourage you to complete a brief survey. We'd really like to hear what you think. If you are unable to stay with us for the entire webinar but would like to complete the survey as much as you're able, please click the survey widget at the bottom of the screen and launch it. Otherwise, it will pop up once the webinar concludes. Joining me today to discuss this great topic are E.J. Widun, Chief Technology Officer for Oakland County, Michigan, and Tracy Barnes, Chief Information Officer for the state of Indiana. Let me talk a little bit about each of them. E.J., he joined Oakland County in 2015 to launch their enterprise architecture practice. He brings over 25 years of experience to his endeavors that span several industries, including government, financial services, car rental, technology, and automotive. During his career, EJ's responsibilities have included enterprise architecture, IT strategy, information security, data management, business intelligence, business analysis, process transformation, application development, identity management, cloud, technology operations, and project management. EJ is also an active member of the Board of Directors for the Michigan Government Management Information Science. That's the Oakland School and Oakland Schools Cybersecurity Advisory Committee. And that was my GMIS that EJ is a board member for. Tracy oversees the Indiana Office of Technology and provides strategic oversight of the state's technology portfolio, as well as leadership on technology and cybersecurity policy. Tracy brings significant business leadership and information technology experience to his role, having previously served as Chief of Staff for the Lieutenant Governor, Deputy Auditor, and IT Director for the Indiana Auditor of State. Additionally, he was President and Chief Executive Officer for NTAP, Inc., which designed and delivered effective enterprise-focused information technology solutions to organizations in various industries across the globe. So we have two great speakers here for you today. Now, what I'd like to do before we get into our discussion is we have a poll question for you. So it's up on your screen, so please everybody jump in and answer. What do you need most from your technology partners as you navigate understanding and mitigating your technical debt? When you think about technical debt and you think about all the issues in regard to that, when we first looked at this session, we actually defined technical debt. We said it's the impact of previous investment decisions on your current and future state of technology. So how are you managing it? What's happening out there in regard to your technical debt? So I'm going to leave this poll question open for a little while longer. So please select one of those responses: learning about new technology solutions, help with implementing technology solutions, help with integrating solutions with existing systems, or help with identifying and prioritizing areas of opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wait a few more seconds because we've got people coming in fast and furious on the poll. And I'm going to go ahead and share the results. Speakers, interesting, the split of results here. So we had a tie for first, learning about new technology solutions and help with identifying and prioritizing areas of opportunity. Then we had a tie for second, help with implementing technology solutions or help with integrating solutions with existing systems. So great information, and thank you all for being part of our poll today. So what I'd like to do is invite our speakers in. EJ, Tracy, how are we today? How's everybody going? How are you doing?
Doing great.
Doing good, thanks.
Awesome. So let's jump in, guys, if we could, because technical debt, is something that's been around for a while. Legacy systems have been part of government for many years. What are you seeing out there in regard to good examples or unique examples of technical debt? And what examples stick out to you? Tracy, let's start with you.
Well, thanks, Bill. And that's really interesting following that poll there with the identification and prioritization as one of the leading tie priorities there. when I think of technical debt, what I'm most challenged with and struggling with here at the state of Indiana, I lean over towards our physical assets. We do have a significant volume of, as with any organization, applications that are continuing to evolve and modernize and matriculate into newer tools and systems and such. But the physical devices often get overlooked, and that gets into not just laptops and desktops, but mobile devices as well, and printers, especially when you talk about the large volume printers that we do from our revenue and our auditors' offices with, still having to print some forms of checks and paper and W-2s and 1099s and things of that nature. A lot of these devices have not evolved as quickly, or at least the investment because of the capital expense of them have made it a little more difficult to upgrade and enhance and move them forward. And just as equally as a legacy application that has vulnerabilities and has exposure to the internet, a lot of these devices have been interconnected as well and have very similar exposures and vulnerabilities that raise concerns, and we see them and they keep producing, and we forget that they're connected. We forget that they have an outside interaction, and sometimes are passing and moving data, and in some extent even storing data, that we're starting to put a little bit of effort into trying to determine, okay, how big of a risk and how big of a concern do we need to think about some of these other peripheral devices that have been great because they continue working, and we haven't had to think about them and haven't had to stress about them. But now do we realize that they are holding us back and are being a limiting factor in our ability to progress and move forward? So those are kind of the big items I start to get concerned about, and what I consider, I guess, as unique is because it's very common for us to think about applications and knowing that cloud is coming and knowing that we need to shift workloads and things of that nature. But we still have a few significantly expensive physical devices around here that I can't figure out how to get rid of them.
That's interesting, isn't it? You look at technical debt from all different directions. Yeah, definitely. EJ, let's talk with you now. What are you seeing out there, and what examples do you see that stick out?
So I agree with what Tracy was sharing about some of those legacy devices. The other thing I've seen, though, is COVID has changed the game of where technical debt was as a mark for me. So we've always measured technical debt inside of Oakland County. We have this small little app called Tech Debt Check that we use to assess how and where to try and prioritize investment. But COVID-19 brought a whole different dynamic. In Oakland County, we were always an on-prem sort of government, serving citizens, always in a building, and we had to actually change the game of what we did, and we had to look at how to go remote. And so when we did that, all of a sudden new things in technical debt showed up. It was the ability to access from different locations that we've never thought of before. And it changed how that investment portfolio should really work for us. So that has been the key driver or differentiator for me when I look at technical debt now. Was remote work was a newer thing for us. We had options for it. We had select people that could do it. But moving it to a wide scale base that went across the county of the 5,000 employees we have was a whole different game. And so that has been a key change in the new forms of technical debt. The other thing that we saw was how to stretch technologies that we have and making those existing investments utilize across the board. Things with vaccines, and we had to prove nimbleness for a change versus doing other things. And so IT got tested to be nimble versus being traditional in the way you approach technical debt.
Interesting the way you look at that, EJ, being nimble or traditional, right? The old traditional way of planning to go ahead and try to change what you have or modernize what you have, but you had to modernize on the fly, right? I mean, this crisis kind of changed the game a bit, didn't it?
It totally did. And the thing that we leveraged with that, Phil, was the concept of minimal viable product to try and streamline delivery. So we would say, instead of creating the best solution I could make, whether you wanted a Cadillac and you needed a car, and instead of buying a Cadillac necessarily, we would actually get something that would be a vehicle that would be usable for people, and then make enhancements along the way to ease that production burden, and changing that focus from all requirements done to what does it mean to be successful to provide a value to our citizens.
So EJ, let's stay there. What kind of challenges are you seeing around technical debt?
So one of the things that became apparent to us with the onset of COVID was how to handle call volumes that came in and allowing people to work remotely. We have call center technology that didn't actually grow to handle the call volumes that came from surges. Every time the governor would make an announcement about COVID and there would be a change, we would see a huge influx of calls coming in. And trying to balance out that influx of calls on a system that couldn't scale was one of those challenges. So it became a need for scale to enable that to occur. That's one of my best examples in trying to deploy new call center technology that would allow people to work from anywhere while still getting the metrics in to allow you to run a true call center.
Excellent example, EJ. I love that. Tracy, what challenges are you seeing out there that are around the technical debt for governments?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The biggest challenge that we're seeing is how to fund it. I mean, it's truly, you talk about funding GovTech and navigating technical debt, funding that technical debt, and back to the early poll answers with prioritization is really making sure that we have a good understanding of where our technical debt exists and understanding the risks that they're posing in order to get some level of prioritization to determine where do we tackle first. I mean, as EJ talked about, during the pandemic, there was not a lot of time to do a review and validation and the level of scrutiny that I think a lot of us would have liked to have done in identifying and selecting tools and such. And so to some extent, we've had to introduce a practical solution as opposed to the best solution, which may have already created additional more technical debt that we're having to go back and say, okay, now that we're in a more of a stable state, is there a better way we can look at this and we look at doing this? We support 100 state agencies from our central focal point here at the Indiana Office of Technology. And while there are so many things that each agency is very keen on and needs for their mission critical support, there are a number of other tools and technologies that are just general enterprise-wide solutions and issues and items that need to be addressed. And so that's where it becomes a big challenge for us, is determining for, our domain collapse concept that we need to work on and trying to get our Windows domains prepared for the next iteration, the next level, as opposed to the consolidation that we've experienced over the last 15 years. A bit of a review of our network infrastructure as we talk about looking forward to items like SD-WAN and Zero Trust, as opposed to the way we've created ourselves over the last 15 years. It's taking that ability not just to step back and say, hey, I want to do a new project, but how do I take advantage of realizing that we built a framework and we built an infrastructure. I need to do a new assessment to understand what's our new need as an organization, and then a prioritization as to how do I migrate myself from existing footprint and infrastructure and utilize proper funding to get me to that next level and prepare for the future. That's going to continue being a problem of ours, I think, for a while.
Tracy, you mentioned security, and there's so many things out there that impact your ability to manage your technical debt. What kinds of trends are you seeing out there that are going to maybe either hinder or accelerate your ability to modernize your technologies?
Well, I'm extremely hopeful that we can err on the side of the acceleration of that modernization more than the hindrance. Security has been playing a huge part, and here's why it's been a huge part and a huge value add for us here is it's been able to get people to be open to a conversation that is not just a technical conversation that they've never been able to hear and understand before. It's when we talk about, potentials for data breach, data loss, things of concern of privacy information, and understanding the global impact that cybersecurity is becoming more and more in the forefront on. to help them understand and make that jump to this is because of old tools and old technologies is a lot easier and has been a lot easier of a conversation over these last 18 months than starting from scratch with helping them understand, okay, this could happen. You know, the global issues that we've seen from the Kaseya attack, the Colonial Pipeline attack, the Solar Winds attack, the news and the media has worked in our favor on this one in helping bring awareness to an area that is very, very mystical and mystified to a lot of people. But our opportunity is helping to say, okay, we know those are out there and those are possible now. Here's what we want to do and here's what we want to see happen that can help move our infrastructure forward, that we can minimize or at least mitigate the impact of something like that happening to us in the future. So I'm, fingers crossed, very hopeful that it'll help us continue accelerating our improvement in our posture more than it being a hindrance.
Tracy, thank you for that. EJ, same question. What trends are you seeing out there, and are they hindering or are they accelerating your ability to modernize?
Tracy brings up a great point in talking about how identity and access management plays a role in what you do from a cyber perspective and people working from anywhere. In Oakland County, we actually are in the process of going through a new identity and access management service. It comes with MFA, so this switch that we brought in and the nimbleness when I was talking about it is, it drove a lot of change. And we enabled MFA really quickly as we started rolling these pieces in. But the other thing we were able to do to help move that identity curve forward, because it's important to know who's logging into your systems, that they feel confident logging in, that they're able to vet who you are. One of the things we did to help offset this and drive some of that change is we developed the cost of an identity and made it part of the bill back model that we use in IT. We have gotten so much from the examples Tracy threw out about all the breaches that occur that a cost of an identity is now something we charge people for, just like you charge for a laptop or email or something else. We charge you to have an identity to be safe and protected. And so enabling that makes us safer longer term. Figuring out how to enable it across some of the technical debt opportunities that exist is the challenge, Phil. Some of them are not as smooth to integrate with these pieces. Just like Tracy mentioned, I believe he said he had over 100 different services he provides. In Oakland County, we provide over 82 government services. That covers a long range of different size applications and how they connect. And trying to consolidate that all down is so critical.
EJ, great point there. And so let's stay with you for a second too. The core systems, you know, the core foundational applications and technologies that you have, you know, how effective are these modernizations that are happening today and are going to be going forward? How effective are they in helping you manage your technical debt?
As we look to these solutions, one of the things we do in Oakland County is we have a smaller IT shop for the 82 different services we provide. So our philosophy is we try to buy versus build, to try and streamline some of that and focus our efforts on the integration of those applications. As you move into a buy versus build, we always try to look for things that give us sort of an as-a-service solution, something that would remain in an evergreen status. But the challenge that exists is the process change that comes with enabling those things to occur. It's a change not just to the technical staff, but to the business process. And getting people to adapt to those new pieces is almost like a new form of technical debt in a way. It's not technical, it's process debt, but you have to get people to go with you on the journey to make those changes to enable those technologies.
I love that. That maybe it's, you know, somewhat of the whole culture and the acceptance of technologies as you change them. And it's hard sometimes, isn't it, EJ, to make that change happen?
It really is when you talk to people that have done things a certain way for so long. Because one of the things we do is we run applications for a long period of time. People get comfortable with them. They like them. We nurture it. We feed it. We keep it as secure as we can keep it. But eventually there comes a time to make a shift. And that shift comes with process automations or things that you can use artificial intelligence for and machine learning and other things that you can drive new value add activities out of the team that's with you. And making those changes is a little bit harder because people don't, it's a fear of the unknown in a way, if you think about it. And then you're also driving change to your technical staff as well, whether you're moving from on-prem to cloud. You're going to drive changes with those groups of people and the way they run their business, and absorbing all that change is one of those challenges that we face as we move away from technical debt.
An excellent point. Change is never easy, but it can be made easier sometimes. And Tracy, let's go there and talk about that same question I had for EJ. Do you see that those core systems and the modernization of those core systems is going to get you where you need to go in managing your technical debt?
I don't think they're going to get us there the way that I'd like them to. You know, there's here our volume of systems and solutions here at the state are just so massive that, and I say this kind of tongue in cheek, right? Our core systems are kind of the easy ones, right? Those are the ones that we do know exist, and we do know the levels of opportunity and capabilities to modernize and improve, and even make marginal improvements without full modernization because of new tools and technologies. When I think about our ERP footprint and our email systems and things like that, things that are truly centrally governed and centrally managed. The bigger challenge we have is all the, I mean, like EJ talked about, over 82 services that he has and the other 100 services that we do from our different agencies. It's all of those niche products that individuals have purchased, have procured, have implemented, deployed. Agencies that have been so very mission driven that they don't have an IT group or an IT understanding, and may have had turnover and administration changes and governors changes and things of that nature, that they're still running and no one understands exactly what's going on. And I think EJ hit another huge point, which I've never said it that way, and I may start borrowing that, is more thinking about it from process debt and being stuck with understanding, hey, look, I don't need to overhaul your whole system. If I can make some marginal improvements in some areas, then I can increase our posture and get us in a little bit better position, that it's not going to cost you a ton of money, but it will mitigate and minimize a ton of risk. And helping to make that understanding and that leap to where their processes have been flawed or at least have improvements. Because traditionally at the state, we don't go out and address processes unless it's a legislative requirement to change how something's being done. It's the proactive review and annual understanding and perspective of what we're doing and is there a better or efficient way to do it. You know, yeah, I'm speaking very generally here. If something's working, you know, back to the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, those things fall very quickly to the bottom of the list. But if we can find some ways and some avenues to increase that awareness of that process hang up and process that, as EJ coined it, I think that could help us move things along a lot quicker and get better understanding and buy-in as to what we mean. And it's not just the sense of IT pushing new tools and technology for the sake of pushing new tools and technology.
It's interesting because both of you went there. You know, the whole issue of don't put technology around bad process. You need to be able to shift that process to put the right technologies in place. So, Tracy, something else that EJ talked about was he talked about the rapid pace of change in the team and how that impacts them. How's that impacting your team?
It is, you know, you're always playing catch up with the reality and understanding that you'll never actually get caught up. It's innovation and the speed of technology is moving so fast. You know, the goal is to try and keep ourselves aware of the tools and features and technologies that are out there. That doesn't mean we have to adopt and embrace and deploy every single one of them the minute they're released. I mean, it's still got to be a very practical understanding of, is this the right solution? Is this the right opportunity? And more than that is do we have the right people to do this, to help support and make sure we can make a decision that we can be comfortable with for a longer period of time, knowing that we're going to have other tools and techs that we need to address and adjust because they're continuing to innovate and modernize and move forward. The speed of innovation is, I hate to say this as a technology leader, but it truly works against us. It definitely does not make things easy for us, and our good friends, our industry partners and vendors that like to tell everyone about their great new features and functions, and they convince our agency heads and our agency leaders to want to progress and modernize and move forward with their recommended approaches. we still have to be practical and try and keep that in perspective and make sure we keep our focus on the enterprise approach and the enterprise goal without being a limiting factor to their ability to support their mission goals and mission-driven initiatives as well, and always supporting the governor's initiative with what he's wanting to accomplish and where he's trying to take the state as a whole.
Tracy, thank you for that. EJ, you have an incredible team at Oakland County. I know. I spent many years with all of you, and you do incredible work. How are they accepting that change?
They embrace it, Phil, but there's so much with those 82 services that it's hard to find the time to dedicate to learn all the time. And if you're not in it all the time, making that change and the change curve you go through, it's a little bit harder as you don't get to invest in it the way you would. So in our example, we run about 20% of our footprint in cloud. 80% is in a legacy on-prem data center. And that data center, cloud's newer. Getting people to go there when it's only 20% of your footprint creates some of that change curve that goes in. People want to embrace it, but the time to dedicate to learn it is the challenge we face as government, because we're always trying to deliver new services to citizens. And that gets in the way of some of those other key learnings that we run into as a provider of government service, right? We always have to help our citizens. We have to help our frontline people working with citizens to give them those solutions at their fingertips, and we don't get that investment to the retraining. Like, we have training dollars set aside, but it's not the dedicated hands-on experience and the repetition you need to make it every day.
Great point, great point. We only have a few minutes left in our session today, so what I'd like to do is pose this question. EJ first, Tracy second. What's that quick piece of advice you have for your team or your partners, and what you need from them to help manage your technical debt? What's that quick piece of advice you have? EJ?
For me, I would say, I'll start. For me, I would tell you, it's bring solutions that align to the vision of where I'm at. Don't try to take me down a different path. As I mentioned, we've got scores. We understand where some of the debt is. We understand where skeletons are. Helping me bring that actually through is the essential part that aligns to what I'm doing. And just don't distract me from that core vision with different services or new bells and whistles that I could have. I've got things that I have to execute on to make this environment stable, because as an IT organization, what do people expect? They expect it to work like a light switch, and they expect it now to be secure. And so those are my two operating principles, and everything else is kind of the cherry on top of that sundae and the new value I can bring you. So make sure you're bringing services that align to where I'm headed down that path.
Well said, EJ. Tracy, your piece of advice on managing technical debt for your team or your partners.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. And I think EJ's, hitting the nail on the head. And I'll just extend that and a little bit further and say, for me, it's making sure that folks realize we need you as a partner. Whether it's an employee, an agency employee, or an external vendor partner, the state needs you to truly be that partner. Let's not sit back and either assume that, we know that this issue or technical debt is out there. Let's not sit back and be afraid to bring it forward because it's a tool that you built and created and you implemented years ago. The best way for us to address this and tackle this and work with you on moving it forward is to know that it's there and working together as a team and as a partnership to make it happen. Just because it's considered debt and it's considered a legacy app doesn't mean it's going to move away. But again, we need to know where our risks and our vulnerabilities are at in order to make a plan and prioritization on how to move that stuff forward. And you can absolutely, like EJ said, be part of that solution. And you're better off bringing it to us and helping us understand what that solution could be for the betterment of the entire state.
Very well said, guys. And I want to be respectful for everybody's time commitment. So we're going to have to wrap up our session here. And in closing, I would like to thank EJ and Tracy. You guys were excellent. Thank you for sharing all your insight today. I would also like to give a big thank you to our sponsors, Cisco Meraki and Fortinet, for making it possible to have this important webcast discussion today. And a big thank you to our audience for spending time with us. If you'd like to download your certificate of attendance, you can do so now by clicking on the certification icon at the bottom of the screen. Also, tune in with us on October 27th for our next conversation in this Funding GovTech series titled Understanding Total Cost of Ownership. So thanks again, speakers. EJ, Tracy, thank you. Everybody, audience, have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.